everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks for saying that back. So as Sheena mentioned, I'm Laura, and I'm here today to talk to you all about my work in Maine, which is surrounding connecting with Maine school districts in order to determine the best ways for them to be serving and best practices for them to be serving students school breakfast in the morning. So I'm going to start off, however, with talking a little bit about what hunger looks like in Maine. So as you can see, Maine has the third highest rate of hunger in the nation. However, in 2012, they were ranked 7th highest. So they're winning a losing race. And that has sparked a lot of conversations in Maine communities about hunger. And for better or worse, it's kind of primed community members who may not have always been willing to engage in such conversations to be a part of conversations about what changes need to be made in order to better serve the folks in their communities. A little bit more specifically, 1 in 4 children in Maine live in a food insecure home. This is particularly alarming because even short periods of food insecurity have detrimental outcomes for children on both their physical and on their mental health. So that's all sad. I almost said well and good, but it's not. But what does it have to do with school breakfast, and why does school breakfast matter? Well, it matters because school breakfast decreases the risk of food insecurity. So I know you all woke up today wondering what the school breakfast program was, and I'm going to tell you. The school breakfast program is a federal nutrition program, which means that the federal government provides reimbursements to schools for breakfasts that are served to students. But what I really want to highlight here is that parents or guardians can apply for their children to receive free or reduced school meals, including breakfast, and they're eligible for that benefit if they're below 185% of the poverty line. In orange on this slide, you'll see the federal reimbursement rates, which obviously vary from free to paid students. However, again, what I want to highlight is the fact that in Maine, the state provides additional reimbursements. So what that means at the student level is that both free and reduced eligible students eat school breakfast for free. So this is Portland, Maine, or urban Maine. And this is Lake Region, or rural Maine. As you can see, they're both beautiful. However, there is a strong and sometimes contentious urban and rural dichotomy in Maine. And as beautiful as they both are, both of these communities are facing issues of hunger and poverty. And so it was really important to me that I work both in urban and in rural Maine in order to design my recommendations and to work on the toolkit that was the outcome of my time in Maine. So when I first began working with the Lake Region schools, they had over 50% of their students who were eligible for free or reduced meals. However, of those students, only about 30% were eating free breakfast in the morning. And so this led me to ask 2 questions. First, why aren't they eating free food? And second, how can we get them to eat? So in order to figure out how we can get them to eat, first we had to look at why. And so with the help of the incomparable Madeline Levin from FRAC, I designed surveys that I partnered with the Lake Region schools, particularly the middle school, to administer. This is just a small subset of the data, but I really wanted to highlight these key points because they really encapsulate what I came to realize were the 2 barriers, or there's more than 2 barriers, but they kind of fall into 2 buckets of barriers. The first is stigma. So stigma among students, and due to the lack of amount of students eating, students didn't want to be the only student eating, or one of very few students eating, because that's not cool, and you also might look like a student who needs free or reduced meals. In addition, there's stigma among the families. Rural Maine, particularly the Lakes region, is very insular. Everyone knows everyone. And the downfall of that is that families are very reluctant to apply for free or reduced meals for their children, even when they need that financial support. And so subsequently, those students may not be eating at home or at school because they can't afford that dollar for a paid breakfast. Additionally, the other kind of bucket is time. So first of all, there just wasn't enough time for students to eat in the morning before school or when they got there. At the middle school, they had from 7 a.m. to 7:15 to eat. Many of the buses didn't arrive till 7:15, and additionally, many of the parents didn't drop off their student to them. And finally, the students want time to socialize. It's very important to their development, and so going and sitting by themselves in the cafeteria isn't always the most fun thing to do. So now that I knew all that, I could move on to the next question, which is what does work. So the goal was to determine solutions that both reduce that stigma and increase the amount of time students had to eat. So in Portland, Maine, they already implemented some great changes. The first was universal breakfast, which means that every student in the school eats for totally free. Which is great because it reduces that stigma by meaning that no one looks like the kid who's not paying. Additionally, if you pair this with breakfast in the classroom, you see some great outcomes. And so this is, you can see in the box what happened in the Portland public schools, particularly Riverton School. And they saw a huge increase in participation and also some really positive behavioral and health outcomes for the students. In the Lake Region schools, we did something different. At the middle school, we switched over to Second Chance Breakfast. Second Chance Breakfast is where you serve, a school serves breakfast in the morning in that traditional kind of time period, and then they add another distribution in the morning, usually between first or second, or second and third period. So students who didn't eat school breakfast in that early time period can grab a breakfast between classes in the cafeteria or at a kiosk, and they can bring it with them to class and eat it there. Additionally, this is served in kind of the grab-and-go style. The grab-and-go style can be done before or after the bell, and that's where breakfasts are pre-bagged, students grab them on their way to class and eat them there during the first few minutes. As you can see, there was a huge increase in participation. This is kind of the average, but on some days we saw over 100% increase in students participating just from this small change. Finally, I really want to highlight what was some of my most important work in Maine, and that was building relationships with the key players or the stakeholders in the school. And so the first step towards that is to meet with the stakeholders and to kind of meet them where they are. And additionally, it's really important to listen to them, to learn from them, because they are the body of knowledge on their school district, on their community, and on their needs. And also to address their needs as best as you can, whether or not you can make changes, at least let them know they're heard and valid. And also to take their suggestions to heart and keep them involved in the process from conception to implementation. This will increase their buy-in, which ultimately leads to better outcomes for the students who are more likely to eat if more of these folks are encouraging them to do so. So in the end, in order to serve more breakfast to students in Maine, it's important to know your barriers, to get creative about the ways to move around them and on the ways to serve breakfast to students, and also to build relationships and support from the school and community stakeholders.